Look at the adjective. Play.
And I have half the brain that you do. I told you. Oh, God.
Now is the franchise going to take the Viagra?
Gonna put the butts in the seat.
Hello there, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode number 99 of Because WCW, the podcast, where the big boys play. My name is the Twisted Genius Dinas, and I am joined as ever by my co-host Liam Happen. Liam, what's that? There's a distinct smell of fresh new job around. Is that you?
That may be me. I thought you was going to say there's a smell of fish, because that's all you've been complaining about all day, is smelling fish.
I am recording this in my kitchen, and it does smell of fish, and that is not a euphemism. I mean, we did have fish for dinner, just in case you wondered.
That is not a euphemism. Or is it? But yes, you're right, Dean. I've kind of made this perma-lancing job a little bit more permanent and a little bit less lancing. I am the new DAZN News content manager. Those who listen regularly know that I've been, or you've been, more importantly, you've been banging on about how I work for DAZN. And yeah, that is now full time. My other freelance offerings are now in the dust, and that also includes the Hooked On Wrestling website I was writing a lot for. But never fear, I am very much going to show up at the Hooked On event party still and ruin everyone's evening.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I'll be there. I'm hosting the London SummerSlam party at the Sports Bar and Grill in Old Street, and we got them going all around the country. Yep, hookedonwrestling.co.uk/tickets. So, we are doing a little bit of a kind of a special one today because as anyone who is a fan of WCW will know, terribly sad news this past week, and pretty much out of the blue as well, that we lost easily one of the greatest and one of the unsung heroes of WCW, one of the greatest in-ring performers of any era. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, one half of the Midnight Express and elsewhere, part of the Dangerous Alliance. He passed away aged just 62 this past week. Terribly, terribly sad. And so we wanted to cover what is one of his most high-profile moments in the company, headlining Clash of the Champions 15 in a 2 out of 3 falls match with Ric Flair. And as our special guest for this show, we've brought back a former guest, because this is a man who I have known for many, many years, and also is a man that I know loved Bobby Eaton's work just as much as Liam and I did. And a sad but welcome back to Because WCW, to Discovery Wrestling commentator Darren Goss. Good evening, Gossy. How are you doing today?
Gentlemen, I'm doing fine. Yeah, it's sad to be here under these circumstances, but I know what a pleasure it is for both of you to have me here. But yeah, in all seriousness, Bobby was, I mean, I think for a lot of us old, I'm going to be good with my language. A lot of us old farts who started watching wrestling in the early 90s, that era of WCW featured Bobby a lot. What we'd see on ITV, and then going into the Dangerous Alliance. So, I mean, obviously I didn't get to know the Midnight Express and things until a bit later on. But for me, Bobby was on nearly every show. And it's, a lot of people throw around, he was so good. He was this, that, and the other because someone dies. And you're like, But Bobby was amazing. Really, really, really good. It's tragic. But, I mean, the one thing I hope that will come from this is the newer generation of wrestling fans, or even wrestlers, will go back and look at his work more.
Yeah, definitely, because he was one of those guys that made every single thing he did mean something. He did everything for a reason. There's no wasted motion. There's no spots for the sake of spots.
Absolutely, yeah, and everything. Just watching that, the main event of this show back now, which hopefully I've watched the right show. Otherwise, we can have a good conversation. But yeah, no, just watching this back and just everything, just the punches he did. His punches are so good, so good, and just everything is performed so well. It's believable. It gripped me because there's a lot of stuff in this show that didn't. Uh, let's put it. It's a tale of two halves. This show. Let's put it that way. But no, it's all about the main event. I think really. There's a couple of other good things in there, I will say, but yeah, it was just Bobby having that moment, and you could see how much appreciation Flair had for him. Because they worked together a few times in '89 and on Saturday Night, and they've done some other stuff. But obviously Flair wanted him in this position, and yeah, there's some other things I'll talk about, but as we get there. But yes, it's nice to have a bit of a tribute to Bobby Eaton. Definitely one of the greatest of all time, no question.
Yeah, and one of the many tributes I saw that really stood out to me. I don't know if you saw this one, Liam, but Lance Storm wrote quite a long tribute to him, and one of the things that really stuck in my mind was he said that in a world in the 80s where it was all about the big rippling muscles and the promos, you had in Bobby Eaton you had a guy who couldn't really talk, and that's in real life as well. All accounts he was very quiet. So he had Jim Cornette as his manager with him, so he didn't really talk much. He had a pretty ordinary for a wrestler body, nothing spectacular about that. But the moment he got into the ring, the moment that bell rang, you couldn't take your eyes off him.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I didn't see that what Lance wrote, but it was. I don't know. It's just there's something about him, and it is difficult to put into words exactly what it is, but it's just so natural. It just flows. There's nothing forced. And every time you're going to get to see him, it's a treat. It really is, no matter what he was doing. Even up until, those last years of WCW. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. They were showing clips of like Kurt Hennig and Macho Man working with him on Saturday Night or Pro, whatever it was. And they're bumping around the ring for him just because they wanted to work with Bobby Eaton at like the head, at the top of the NWO era.
Yeah.
And Bobby's just, I hate the term jobber, but, he's really just enhancement talent at that point.
Yeah, but as you say, they still want to work with him. They still want to make him look good. And I mean, Liam, we've been watching the Nitro watch-alongs recently, and the Blue Bloods are very much of this era. And even when you've got a guy from Alabama being portrayed as an aristocrat adopted Brit, he managed to make it work.
Yeah. Sorry, mate, go on.
Oh, so I was just going to say, I think it very much worked the other way as well. You look at just how much this massive company with so much talent at their disposal at this juncture in time was willing to get very creative and change things around just to find room for a worker of Bobby Eaton's caliber on their roster. There probably were people they could have drafted in to be more authentic. There were people that may have been able to have done more hamming up for the role, but they were absolutely insistent on getting Bobby in that role because they knew that when it came down to the brass tacks of it, stepping between the ropes and getting it done in the ring, there was no one better.
Yeah, because you look at the rest of the Blue Bloods and they could all wrestle. They were proper old school grafters, weren't they?
Yeah, and you remember, like a few years later, they had like a full-blown stable because you had like Dave Taylor and Fit Finlay and Regal all on the same side, and obviously at this juncture you've got Finlay and Regal against each other.
Yeah.
But for them, it just made absolute sense to adapt everything to get Eaton in because it would be worthwhile because of what Eaton could do between those ropes.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing that he'll be most remembered for, without a shadow of a doubt, would be the Midnight Express. Mainly, I guess the incarnation with Stan Lane, that was the most famous and the most successful one, and the feud that they had with not just the Rock and Roll Express is the obvious one, but I mean, thinking of other, there's a tremendous match. Great American Bash '90, which I think we've covered, haven't we? With the Southern Boys, Tracy Smothers and
Yep.
Steve Armstrong, which is just one of the best tag matches of that era.
And the first Clash, the Fantastics, wasn't it? That's another
Yeah.
brilliant match. And there's I cannot remember what it is now, but there's one against Zenk and Pillman as well. And I think that might be the one where they put Corny in a shark cage.
Is that Capital Combat, maybe?
I think that rings a bell. Yeah, I remember having that videotape when I was a
Yeah.
kid. So they sort of just flow. But I just remember watching those and thinking this is incredible, because we weren't really used to it in WWF. I mean, you see like, you know, the Bushwhackers and the Natural Disasters and the Legion of Doom and, you know, the Rockers a bit, but you know, I think for me, I was too late for the Hart Foundation or the British Bulldogs to see those really. So for me, it was more like, what the hell is this? You know,
Yeah.
But then when you watch that other stuff and just see the fluidity, the tag team moves, the just great on for all of that. And it's a very special part of WCW, and we're falling into in '91, unfortunately, the awful decline. But there's still some good things there. It's sort of reminiscent of '89, '90. A few things are, but then the rest just stinks of '91.
Listen up, slapnuts. That's right. This is Jeff Jarrett, the chosen one, and you're listening to Because WCW. Now choke on that.
Okay, well, let's crack on with the events of Clash 15. Obviously, normally we'll ask our guest why we're doing this show, but as we've said exactly the reason why, this is one of the few main events that Bobby Eaton's in. I mean, he was in he was in the War Games in '92, Wrestle War, but this is, to my knowledge, the only main event he's had as a singles wrestler. He was in this period of time here between the Midnight Express splitting up and the Dangerous Alliance forming at the very end of 1991. But we're in the middle of that year at this time. It's June the 12th, 91. We're at the Civic Auditorium in Knoxville, Tennessee for Clash of the Champions 15 live broadcast on TBS. We start off with Missy Hyatt introducing the show before she's interrupted by Paulie Dangerously, who then introduces us to our commentators for the evening, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. And I suppose in keeping with the theme of tonight's show, and we'll see this come up a lot, the opening segment was rushed and really didn't serve any purpose at all. Our main event sees Ric Flair defending the WCW World title, as we've said, in the 2 out of 3 Falls match against Bobby Eaton. It would turn out to be Flair's last televised title defense before he left for the WWF, taking the belt with him. We've got 12 matches to cram into a 2-hour broadcast, so unlike usually we have with WCW, there's no time to lose, and we press on with the opening match. And the opening match is a 6-man tag pitting the Fabulous Freebirds and Bad Street, and they're accompanied by Diamond Dallas Page and Big Daddy Dink, so Oliver Humperdinck, against the Young Pistols, Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong, and their partner Tom Zenk. The Z-Man, described as a youngster by Jim Ross, is 32 years old by this point, and he's returning from a bicep injury. Pre-heel manager Bill Alfonso is our referee. We get the traditional WCW babyface offense of arm drags and drop kicks to start us off. All 3 heels are then dispatched from the ring with stereo crossbody blocks off the top rope from the Young Pistols. The babyfaces are in charge till Michael Hayes jumps in, nails Tracy Smothers with a quick left hand, and Bad Street clotheslines him over the top rope to the floor. The heels then won't let Smothers back into the ring. All 6 men later on are in the ring brawling. Steve Armstrong pairing off with his real-life brother, Brad Armstrong, who's under the mask of Bad Street. The babyfaces are thrown out of the ring, but they then all hop back onto the apron, land stereo sunset flips on the heels for I guess I've called it a hokey-looking but fun triple pinfall in 4 minutes 49. What did you make of the opener, Gossie?
I thought it was a really good choice to open a show. I like that idea of something really fast, you know, that really good action, lots of things going on. I got to go back a bit, though. I got to go back because there were some things at the beginning here.
Okay.
Missy Hyatt came out in this red pleather suit, and
Yes.
from a distance, if you squint, it looked a bit like Michael Hayes what she was wearing. So I wasn't sure what was going on there. As you said, everyone now, more than Missy Hyatt, the one thing we've got to notice at the beginning of this show is how much makeup Paulie's wearing, JR, and Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone has got his blonde highlights. He's in his blonde highlights period.
Yes.
Which is insane to me. JR's looking very Peter Kay as well, I'm noticing today. But yeah, anyway, that's just me rambling on about that. I was reminded of Cody Rhodes when the Freebirds came to the ring with DDP, the Diamond Toll, Bad Street, and Big Daddy Dink. I was expecting the dog to come out as well. But it was, it was a good match. It made me think as well that Bad Street character that could have come back but it made no sense, but did America's because WCW, cheap plug, in the Cruiserweight era. And he could have tag teamed with Wildcat Willie. I would have loved that.
With Wildcat
That's
Willie.
what I took from
It's
this
getting
match.
in all the references, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm done
Bad
now. Just
Street,
getting out of here.
I think Bad Street was more over with the crowd than plain old Brad Armstrong was. As great a worker as Brad Armstrong was, he never quite connected to the crowds. And Bad Street had that push and that rub from the Freebirds.
Yeah, there's another thing I just remembered now was they did a double flapjack to the guardrail that looked really, really good. And I say they in a terrible way because I've just written they did a double flapjack to the guardrail. So I'm assuming the heels did it. That's a heel move. So the Freebirds did a double flapjack
to the Young Pistols. Yeah,
there you go. That'll do. We'll just people can go and correct me. I'm sure I'm used to that. But yeah, Brad Armstrong, just again, he was so good. It's just a shame there was nothing there. But I was going to ask you as well, what was the name of the guy that was with the Freebirds before?
Oh, Little Richard Marley.
There you go. I couldn't for the life of me. I couldn't remember.
Was that Rocky King, Liam? Was that the one?
You're picking the wrong day to ask me. I have to look it up.
I think it was. Yeah, but after the opener, what do you make of this one?
Well, I don't know about art of the opener, but it's definitely the art of getting by with an opener, isn't it? It's just they've done just enough of their consummate professional jobs here to get through what is essentially a very weird lineup and of an even weirder entourage. And the Freebirds in 1991, that was an experience, wasn't it?
Well, they didn't quite know what they were doing with them, did they?
But at least they given 5 minutes in a tag match, they can do it blindfolded. So yeah, it's hard to say anything bad about it per se. But yeah, you look at things like the Freebirds and the Young Pistols, and when Darren made that comment earlier about 1991 WCW, it's like, yep, in a nutshell.
Yep,
it is, yeah. And my God, I'm just reminded now of Oliver Humperdinck as a babyface manager in the WWF.
You mean Big Daddy Dink?
Well, sorry, yeah.
His street name. Use his street name.
Big Daddy Cool out there, Dinkle. But I don't know, that poor guy. I mean, I like old Hump, but yeah, I don't know what they were doing. And DDP is unbearable. He's on you later as well. He's about 8 foot tall. He shouldn't be a manager. He keeps saying "good God" all the time, and he is unbearable until 96, I would say. The finish of this match as well, I got huge problems with. As you know, I'm a stickler for the rules.
Indeed.
You can't pin 3 people at the same time. What's going on? Just
well, as long as the ref's counting the legal men, the others are a garnish.
Well, I think Big Daddy Dink should take this up with Grizzly Smith or something if he's not. Well, we're not going to get into Grizzly Smith now, but then we'll move on.
Please don't.
Yeah. Okay, match number 2. We have...
Dean's going to be using this swift segue a lot.
We've got 12 matches to get through, for God's sake. Number 2, it's Oz versus Johnny Rich. And WCW never did grasp the concept of the difference between a person and a place, did they? First we had Oz, then we had Loch Ness. But anyway, here comes Kevin Nash with sprayed silver hair, in a long green cape, a strange old man mask and a weird hat. He's accompanied by a smaller man in a similar hat or similar mask rather, called the Great Wizard, who is played by Kevin Sullivan. Who, let's face it, if you want someone who's significantly shorter than Kevin Nash, Kevin Sullivan's your man.
And who's adept at dressing up.
And he's adept at dressing up,
and they're both called Kevin.
They're both called Kevin.
Important.
And I nearly called him the Grand Wizard, who A, was someone totally different, and B, has KKK connotations, who of course then would have been played allegedly by Dick Murdoch. His opponent is the WCW Worldwide Jobber Johnny Rich. It's a 90-second squash featuring a big boot, a clothesline, and a finisher of a whirlybird slam. Yeah, it's a worldwide style squash, and I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's fair to say that Nash isn't exactly bothered about taking care of his opponent here.
I think that's a nice way to put it. God, I would have stayed down after that clothesline. Jesus, that was terrifying. And
What, you mean the one where he lands on the back of his head? Looks like his head has been buried in the canvas. Yeah.
And if anyone that had seen that, and I'm a fan of Kevin Nash, but at this point, you know, his finisher should have been a sleeper hold or something. When they're giving you the idea of doing the spinny Sid powerbomb, I would be like, oh, no, you're all right, thanks. I've got to, I quit or anything, rather than take that. That move terrifies me. I've never liked it. You've got no control over what you're doing, or
I've
you
never
can't
seen
control
anyone
your
land
opponent.
safely on it.
No, you just got to hope. But I'm going to go back before the match, because after all, we've only got 12 matches to get through, so I'm going to talk about pointless segments. Robin Leach did a voiceover of WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 4 fame, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, that strange British man. That nobody knows over here, but everyone knows in America. So there you go.
You're not talking about the Good Charlotte song then?
No.
Gotcha. All right, fair enough.
There you go. Sorry, it's too modern for me, that sort of music. We talk about the Trogs. But so they got this competition now, and they're really hyping Great American Bash 91, which in retrospect is a terrible idea. So they should never mention that again.
Yes.
One of the prizes is a Ric Flair Rolex, and I just imagine they've gone around all these women that have slept with him and stole his watches and just got them back for this competition. Or this crappy Ric Flair shirt. And then, in order to win, you've got to answer this quote. And did you see the quote they said? Complete this quote.
Yes.
I've never heard Ric Flair say that in my life.
No, I didn't know what the answer was. And I thought that's the point of the competition. No one's going to answer it correctly.
No, and they're not getting those Rolexes because he's got none left. So there we go. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Because it wasn't to be the man, you've got to beat the man. It was something about you got to walk that aisle.
Walk that aisle. Something about you got to go on a boat, and then they went on about. I don't know what the hell they were all over the place with it. It was just a mess. But as you said, no one's allowed to win. That's what the point of it was. The match was what it was. I'm sad that I can't remember when Oz's debut was.
Super Bowl in the month before.
It is Super Brawl, because do you remember that, which is infinitely more interesting now? That's when the monkey nearly gets hung.
No, the monkey does die apparently.
Really?
Yes. I need to watch it back. Liam, we haven't covered Super Bowl 1, have we? We've done Super Bowl 2.
We have not covered Super Bowl 1. I know I'm really jonesing to get that Stinger Luger Steiners match done.
Yeah. So if you're a fan of monkey abuse, or maybe you come from Hartlepool and you'd like to cover this show with us, then do give us a shout. But what I read that the monkey was on a leash and it tried to escape, and apparently Kevin Sullivan kind of yanked the leash that it was on and broke its neck and killed it. But I don't know if that's true or not. We'd have to go back and watch it.
I don't see how Kevin Sullivan could do that, because the monkey was probably bigger than him. So just the logistics of the entire thing. No, I refuse to believe a monkey died. Now all I can think of is the Alan Partridge. All I can see is a monkey flying.
Monkey spinning helplessly. Yeah. I will maintain though that I still choose to believe the story that Triple H accidentally killed a horse the day before WrestleMania.
Nah, see, I don't know that one now. This is something.
There was again, legend has it, and we're going massively off tangent here. It's a good job there aren't 12 matches to get through, but fuck it. The legend has it that that one of Triple H's WrestleMania entrances was going to be him riding down the aisle on horseback, and they had a rehearsal the day before, and I think that the part of the ramp hadn't been finished. They hadn't finished constructing part of the ramp, and the horse's leg went through the ramp and broke its leg and had to be destroyed.
Oh my God. What is it with them with
Allegedly.
animals and entrances? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
They nearly killed Cody's dog when the fireworks went off as well that one
Yeah.
time.
And do you know what? Out of all the wrestlers who've used animals in their entrances, the one that had the least animal abuse and the best taken care of animal surely is when Scott Steiner came down with a fucking tiger on Nitro for no reason at all.
Oh, that was great. That was Jesus. Yeah, that was very WCW.
Yeah. Just why not?
Could have done with that here instead of watching this Oz match, but there you go.
Yeah.
But it was just he takes all that off, and he looks okay. Apart from the green hair and the tights and everything, he looks incredible. Kevin Nash does there, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got this guy. I know what we can do. This. Because Nash has told that story of when he's looking at all this, he's got this gimmick on him, and he just looks at Sullivan and says, "What am I doing?" And Sullivan just says, "Just think of the money, kid," and then kills a monkey or something. So anyway, and the entrance reminded me of Castle Grayskull that he came out. So that was nice. And at one point, I've got this in my. I've written about 10 pages of notes on this match. Tony Schiavone said, as Oz was walking to the ring, dressed up in all of his attire, I've got the exact quote: "This is as impressive as you can get."
I mean, it's not like Tony Schiavone to exaggerate.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. I just think that's really up there. So, but I think we've given far too much coverage to this match. Quite frankly,
we've talked about this match longer than the match itself. I think it's fair to say.
Did that a long time ago.
Long time. Should we just move on to match number 3, Liam?
Yes, please. There's nothing I can add.
Well, we do go straight into the next match after a commercial break with 2 experienced veterans as Dan Spivey takes on Big Josh. However, Big Josh is portrayed here as an inexperienced rookie of 5 months experience, although Matt Bourne, who portrays the character, is a 13-year veteran by this stage. It starts off as a brawl before Spivey takes control with big boots, clotheslines and a suplex. Even when Josh makes a comeback, the crowd are relatively quiet. Kevin Sullivan, who by this point has taken off his wizard garb, comes down the ramp with crazy-looking hair, nails Josh with a wooden crutch, which he knows sells, but once he turns his back on his opponent, Spivey lands a German suplex for the pin in just 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So another quick match. What were your thoughts on this one, Dan?
Well, I didn't know the hell it was because it came up, said Dangerous Dan. I think the hell is Dangerous Dan, and obviously they mean Danny Spivey.
Yeah.
So that
but he's
dangerous. Away. He is dangerous. He's not dangerous. Kevin Nash was in another match. Before that, I noticed though, because I'm going back, there was an advert there, and it said PN News coming to an arena near you, which explains why the house show business was on its ass. Don't say.
Yeah, it sounds like a threat, doesn't it?
It does sound like a threat, and it was definitely a threat to me. And unfortunately, that's not the only time we'll see that freak. See, I'm a big fan of this because straight away you've got Doink versus Waylon Mercy, so I'm happy with that. The real Doink and oh my God, Waylon Mercy. If his body hadn't broken down, that was so good, so good. A Spivey at this point though, he looked like a cross between Barry Windham and Randy Hogan, which was impressive. It was what it was. You know, I still don't get why Big Josh just comes out with an axe handle. It's weird. He's supposed to be a lumberjack. I know, but he'd have an axe, wouldn't he? Just come out and take someone's head off. Yeah, that would be a good heel turn.
It's the poor man's 2x4.
It is.
That's what it is. They've seen Hacksaw Jim Duggan with his 2x4, and they've got an axe handle.
Oh, God. I mean, but that's most famous for that lemon figure, that Galoob figure, which is worth an insane amount of money, isn't it? That is Big Josh's legacy, is that stupid toy.
I don't know this story. What's the story
Yeah,
there?
it was really rare, this Big Josh figure apparently, and if you have that axe handle it came with, it goes for hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars.
Really?
Yeah, so there's a few little WCW figures apparently that are worth a fair whack, and I think that is the holy grail is Big Josh with his axe handle, which again means much more than Big Josh there. How does that person become heel Doink? I don't get it. It's crazy to me. You'd never put the two of them together because, as you say, he's not billed as badly as Norman the Lunatic was, but they're pretty much saying, look, he doesn't know what he's doing. We just found him on the street somewhere so we can have him wrestle.
Yeah, it's a
And he's gonna go-
testament, though, isn't it, to Matt Bourne?
It is really, and I think it's a testament to how much he didn't give a shit about this. Just through that face, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing with me?" But yeah, it was what it was match.
Yeah. Just to back up what you were saying there, I've just found that there is now it's unboxed. I hasten to add, unboxed WCW Big Josh Galoob action figure, and it's on sale on eBay for £300.
There you go. And if you got one in the box and all that sort of business, it go. Now, got the little stick with him?
I don't know if he's got something with him.
For some reason, that little stick matters and makes a huge difference. The WCW 2x4.
Right, no, he's got a belt around his arm, but doesn't look to have that. No, so
there you
would be
go.
worth
If you want
even
to do
more.
a GoFundMe or something for the you can purchase Big Josh.
And rumor has it that once the value of the Big Josh figure became inflated in modern times, it suddenly began ringing up on shop registers as a Hulk Hogan
That's
figure.
Hulk Hogan.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that in the UK with the WWF action figures around this sort of time, or maybe a year or so before, the rarity was the Dusty Rhodes figure. Legend had it there was like only 6 of them in the UK or something. So
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Liam, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, mostly just about Waylon Mercy, but I was beaten to that punch.
That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Was it the heart punch he did? Was that it?
No, he put him in a sleeper and then did his big bug eyes. Although interestingly, he was really getting those bug eyes out here. I suppose he was dangerous, Dan. So that makes sense.
Very bug eye at the beginning of the match. And didn't we I've forgotten already? Didn't One Man Gang run in at the end?
Did he? I didn't see that.
Or did
Maybe I was
Kevin
making
Kevin
that.
Sullivan, wasn't it?
Sullivan does. Yeah, Sullivan does the shot with the crutch. Yeah.
Unfortunately, not dressed as a granny.
Not. Yeah, we're only interested if Kevin Sullivan is dressed as an old lady or a lifeguard.
But do you know what? I have made a note here because when I saw Kevin running down with his hair mad, he reminded me immediately, straight away, I got to this reference of an alcoholic 50-year-old woman whose wealthy husband had left her for a 20-year-old. That's exactly what I saw, especially wielding the crutch, topless, the hair mad, the makeup. Exactly what it is, the beard. It's all there.
Marvelous. Yeah.
That's where the storyline was going.
Like a male version of Laurel Van Ness, if you remember when Chelsea Green was in Impact and had that tremendous gimmick, which I seem to be the only person in the world that loved.
She was a hairbreadth away from having to go back to that moniker, wasn't she?
She was indeed. Yes.
But for the record, I have very much enjoyed that angle as well, especially when you think now that the virtuous people in that storyline are actually punching well above their weight in AEW. Now that the Butchers had a bit of, I think he got a hand injury, and the Bunny and the Blade have been doing their shtick with Blade as a singles wrestler. I think he's been pretty damn good.
Yeah, definitely.
With matches against Christian Cage and Orange Cassidy. Yeah, you could very easily be a decent little singles mid-card heel.
Yeah, obviously available in the UK on ITV. Talking of which, we have the WCW Top 10 rankings, which reminds me of 3 a.m. on Saturday nights on ITV when we had Worldwide, which we were talking about right at the beginning. I do wonder why the hell Elegante is so high up the rankings. But then we have what I anticipate could be Gossie's favourite segment of the show. It's the Danger Zone with Jason Hervey from the Wonder Years, who was, I believe, legitimately dating Missy Hyatt at this point, even though she was about 10 years older than him.
Yeah, I really think, I mean, I remember thinking, oh, this is real because of WCW magazine, but then because they used to go on about it all the time. But I actually read Missy Hyatt's book, which is certainly something.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she was actually dating him. And as well with everyone else. But she dated everyone else, but did everyone else.
And he was also mates with Eric Bischoff.
He was, yeah, and ever forward. I think that's his legacy now.
No, they have. They still do TV or try to do TV stuff together. And at this stage, he also has a tremendous mullet, it must be said. So the gist of this is, and I'm sure you'll go into more detail in this in a moment, Gossie, but the gist of this is that Paulie keeps asking Hervey questions, then pulling the microphone away from him before he can answer. Paulie then insults him and Missy Hyatt. So Hervey walks out, much in the style of Preston on Never Mind the Buzzcocks, if you remember that. So Hervey walks out, but as he turns his back, Paulie smashes his phone, big brick mobile phones of the early 90s, over the back of Hervey's head. Missy Hyatt comes down in her Michael P.S. Hayes costume to rescue him. And I think I'm right in saying that this entire angle lasted longer than the last two matches put together.
Good. Not a bad thing. So, first of all, I've never seen the Wonder Years. I've heard of it, and I know what it is.
I love the Wonder Years.
So I only know of Jason Hervey through this and doing stuff with Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
So Paulie's out there doing his best Roddy Piper / Brother Love, whatever you want to call it, impression. Both of them have got tremendous mullets. That's the one thing I noticed.
Yes.
Fair play to them. When they go on about dating Missy Hyatt, because Jason Hervey is like, he looks up to Kevin Sullivan. He looks like he's 12. And Missy Hyatt just looks like a massive pedophile, quite frankly. So, or his mum. It's really bad. It's not a good thing at all. He's very greasy as well. But in fairness to him, he took the phone shot to the back of the head, and
yeah,
all credit to him.
And he didn't take it in. Well, let's say this. He took getting a shot from behind better than someone like Sid, who would always kind of bend over funny and pull a silly face in anticipation.
That's his selling. Yeah. So it is what it is. And I mean, I like stuff like this in wrestling. I like this silly nonsense in between, especially when you look at the matches you've got. You're like, imagine if it was just one match after another of what we've got in the first half. I'll be honest, when I put this show on, I thought, is this a 3-hour show? Because as you say, there's, 27 matches or something?
12 matches, yeah.
And then towards the end, it gets hilarious because they're like, we haven't got time for anything anymore. Just go in the ring and just lay on the back and get pinned. It really becomes quite funny. So yeah, that's really all I've got on that one. So we move on from that segment, Mr. Gene.
And I was going to say that, yeah, this was basically building up to a match at the Great American Bash, which was meant to be Rick Steiner and Missy Hyatt against Arn Anderson and Paulie Daintree in a cage. So that's what this segment was leading up to. Liam, do you want to? Is there anything you could possibly add to this tremendous segment?
I am rapidly becoming redundant here. By the time we celebrate our 100th episode, I won't be here. There is just, I mean, between the briskness of all this, which I suppose, considering what we say about the Nitro watch-alongs and how good pace of a show, I found that quite good about this, that it runs at a good pace. But between that and the fact that Gossie's on a tear and he's managed to name drop the entire WCW alumni, including people who weren't employed in 1991, there's nothing I can add.
I'm stealing your shtick. I don't know what to say.
I don't make references, do I? Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Like, I listen to this show, but it's you might do. That's a joke. Didn't come over well. Nobody responded. It's all gone very quiet.
Story of my life.
Story of your life with the length of these matches, mate. Jesus. So, yeah, but there we go. That's this. Oh God, this is dire. A lot of this show is really bad. It's very 19. It's because 1991.
You still
this
there?
show. I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, I could hear him, so the problem is clearly you, Dean.
It's you,
Hello?
Dean. You've stuck that incest thing somewhere. No, here we go. I thought it would be me that would bugger this up first. Is he gone? Can you hear us, Dean? No. He's just old, isn't he? That's what it is. His hearing aids one. Hang on.
You're back.
Are you there?
I am here. Sorry.
I just want to let you all know that I am not removing this from it. This is just going to
Good.
be wonderfully. This is going to be wonderfully awkward. Happy 99 episodes. Put a flake in that.
I like that it said, all you people listening on my phone, because this is the level of technology you've got me talking on my iPhone. It said, "Can you still hear me?" appeared, like Dean had passed away. It was like a voice from beyond.
Everything just cut out. I couldn't hear anything. You cut out mid-sentence. I thought something had gone wrong. Well, it had, but my end of things clearly.
Yeah, I heard Gossy clear as day. You were the problem.
Yeah,
fair enough. It's not the first time. Right, match number 4. It's Dustin Rhodes against Terence Taylor, accompanied by Alexander York and Mr. Hughes. It's the computerized man of the 90s, complete with his WWE Network edited music rather than his original music, which I'm currently humming in my head now, and you are too. This is clearly a case of the experienced Taylor working with the younger Rhodes, who's in his 3rd year as a pro by this point in time. Rhodes is in charge till he misses a shoulder charge into the corner and flies through the ropes. And it makes me think, have you ever seen anyone actually hit a running shoulder charge into the corner successfully? I can't think of it. Apart from when Kevin Nash tried maybe in Torres quad, but then that's not really successful.
Does a Stinger splash count by that criteria? Is that something completely different?
That's a different move.
What about when Goldberg does it and goes head first into the ring post? That's something different.
Oh,
different.
You're talking about the to the midsection.
Yes.
Yeah, like Brock Lesnar, Rob Van Dam, loads of guys did it all the time.
Rob Van Dam does it with a backflip. That's true. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
There's also, I don't know if you noticed this, there's a little old lady in the front row facing the hard cam who gets up and shoves Mr. Hughes because he's standing in her way.
Oh, she was so into this show, wasn't she?
She was.
The whole show.
To wake him up.
What's amazing is that without looking at her, selling it, or saying a word, Mr. Hughes just slowly moves to the side to get out of her way. Rhodes is back in control. He even does the multiple right hands and big elbow like his dad used to. Rhodes lands his bulldog finisher, but Mr. Hughes has the ref distracted, so Rhodes nails him with the right hand. Ricky Morton then enters the ring. Mr. Hughes punches Rhodes back, and the ref calls for a DQ win for Rhodes in 4 minutes 27. Not sure if it's because Morton's standing there doing nothing or because Hughes hit him. But then Morton attacks Dustin Rhodes, signaling that he's joined the York Foundation, and Big Josh runs down with his poor man's 2x4 to make the save. Liam, I'm going to go to you first, just so you get a word in. What do you think of this one? And has anyone else had more people turn on them than Dustin Rhodes?
Oh man, he's read off a who's who, isn't he? It's made me paranoid that like obviously the way AEW has gone lately, it's probably not going to happen. But I was absolutely adamant we were going to have a thing where Cody Rhodes got betrayed by Brock Anderson. Just to reenact that whole thing, because out of all the people who have betrayed Dustin Rhodes, let's be honest here, that Arn Anderson one was the best, because he's going up against some bad dudes. He saw that Arn Anderson was available, and he said, "Arn, you're a bad dude. I need bad dude to go up against bad dude. Take the fight to him." And he goes, "All right, I'll do it, but I'll warn you, you're going to get the old Arn Anderson." He's like, "Yeah, sure, that's exactly what I want." DDT. Stupid bastard. I loved every second of
You
that.
got the old Arn Anderson.
You got him. You got exactly what you wanted. Malicious compliance at its very, very best. But yeah, I digress. I will say this about this match compared to some of the other ones. Yeah, it's short. Yeah, it's easy to forget even with the afters. but there was definitely a lot more. The energy was here, so a lot more was done in what little time they had. And that was good. And then you got like the old lady at ringside and all that. That just really adds to the. We've been going through this whole aspect a lot on the watch-alongs, Dean. How a fired up crowd can really enhance things, and even if it's one member of the audience. But yeah, I was feeling this, and I think I made a comment earlier about the brisk pace of the show overall being a good thing. I think that applies to the whole show technically, but yeah, this was where it really started to come into play. Where rather than just, well, at least that match was short and it stopped it from being terrible. This was, there was adrenaline in this one.
Yeah. And Dustin Rhodes always got a good crowd reaction, didn't he?
Oh yeah, this was at a time where he, a lot of people going, Dusty's kid being pushed, and obviously, especially early on, there was definitely a bit of that. It's who you know sometimes, and those foots in the door and all that. But even when you look back at his very early months, he was always pretty good. He was green, sure, but he was never bad. And he goes with the benefit of hindsight, we now know that it was entirely justified making sure he had the chance to grow because he was very good, he was very versatile, and it turns out he's massively evergreen.
Yeah, definitely. Gossy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Well, just go, touching on what you said there, it stunned me how good he was at this point. Because what was he, like 23 or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Something
maybe
like
very
younger.
early 20s, yeah.
He's got to be around there. And from what you said with the evergreen, you look at him now, he's controversial. He's probably the best wrestler AEW's got. If you were to put him in the ring for like 10, 15 minutes, but it depends what you're looking for, I suppose. For a lot of the fan base, they wouldn't agree with me, but
yeah, he was 22 at this point. There you go.
22. There you go. It was close. But you look at other people. When people were like, "Oh, he's pushing him too much," this, that, and the other. Look at Eric Watts. That was the worst case of it altogether. That was, oh my god. And then later on, we got poor David Flair. God, let's not talk about David Flair. Anyway, yeah. So you got the York Foundation, and I love that music as well. But it was just like, what's the weirdest music we can give them? Some dubbed over disco type music. It was really odd. Yeah, the graphics for all of these matches look so bad. They showed one of Flair earlier, and he looked like a librarian. It was really, really bad.
Yes, in his suit, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but the graphics for it, they're either looking the wrong way or they look like they've just woken somebody up. They're really, really bad. Again, as you say, the ring post, that bump into it was really well done. And there's something. Oh, here he is. He's putting his old man hat on again. What I find with a lot of wrestlers, and I'm not getting anyone who do what they want. I'm an old man. I accept that. When you know what I'm saying, when they plan everything out, they plan the entire match out, move by move by move by move. You don't have that element of going out to the ring and slowing things down. So there's never a chance to breathe. And I see this so many times. You don't give the audience a chance to breathe, to take something in. If something's supposed to mean something in the match, you've got to let the audience know that. If you're immediately constantly going to the next thing, which is sort of what this show is in a way, nothing is memorable because it's just one thing after another after another, and nothing really of any importance, which is it's quite a good analogy for what I was saying there. But anyway, they did that. You surprised me by saying the match was only 4 minutes, because I enjoyed it and I thought it was a bit longer than that. So yeah, it was good. I liked it. I thought when Ricky Morton came out, I thought this was the time that Robert Gibson hadn't come to a new contract. Obviously, that was proved wrong later on. Spoilers.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's it was good. It was good. I'm just I don't know. I'm not grabbed into this card really. There's so much. You've got the problem I've got with this era. You've got so many good people, but then you've got like the York Foundation. They've thrown everything on them. They're WWF light, and it's not working. This is the Herd era, and then you throw Dusty on top of it as well, and it's not looking pretty. It's like, no matter, we can give you something really good, but we're going to put all this stuff on top of it that's going to make you think, what the hell is going on? Were Dustin and Terry dating at this point? That's the biggest question here.
I don't know if they were.
It's just not good enough. Dean, you're supposed to know about people's love lives in
It,
1991.
it was either they had got together or didn't she actually briefly date Brian Pillman or something? 'Cause
Yeah.
wasn't that like a real thing they touched upon when they did that angle in WWE later?
Yes.
It was like a
Yeah. So it must have
very
been
briefly dating. So obviously it doesn't give them a good chance of being together at this moment if it didn't
at
last a
this
cup of
moment.
coffee.
She'd probably with Mr. Hughes as well, if he could stay awake. And that old lady in the crowd, she's definitely dead by now.
Oh, definitely.
Just leave it on that bombshell.
I thought we were gonna leave that in the subtext, but yeah, let's just go for it.
She's definitely no way.
Definitely gone.
Yeah. Right. Let's move. God, let's move on from there. So we then have a recap of the events from Super Brawl between Sting and Nikita Koloff, where Koloff ran down with a chain, tried to hit Lex Luger, but Sting pushed Luger out of the way, and Koloff hit Sting instead. So yeah, it's time for a feature match between the two. Nikita Koloff, who is now billed from Lithuania after the breakup of the Soviet Union, but he is still nicknamed the Russian Nightmare. Sting sprints to the ring and the match is on immediately. But what I like about this, and I'm sure this was intentional, but it looks kind of natural, is that Sting runs to the ring, dives through the middle ropes, trips over the rope, entering the ring, and therefore gives Koloff the opportunity to start attacking him right from the beginning. I really like that. It just looks kind of different and natural. Sting manages to fire back with a pile driver, but Koloff no-sells it, much like Road Warrior Hawk would do. Sting kicks out of a sloppy-looking tombstone pile driver at 2. Koloff is dominating the match, but the crowd aren't reacting as much as you'd hope when Sting is selling, but they come alive whenever Sting is on a brief moment of offense. Koloff's offense is pretty basic, but Sting's rubber-legged selling makes it look effective. Sting gets thrown to the floor, but he manages to reverse Koloff, trying to run him into the guardrail to a good pop. Back in the ring, Koloff's back in control till Sting reverses a second tombstone attempt. Sting is finally getting a flurry of offense in. Koloff is selling it big. Koloff then avoids the Stinger splash, but he misses an attempt at the Russian sickle clothesline. Koloff then collides with the turnbuckle after missing that clothesline. Sting rolls him up for the pinfall win in 9 minutes 33 seconds, and the old lady we were just talking about is very happy as she waves an American flag at the camera. So yeah, 9 minutes 33. This one was given a bit of time. What do you think of this one, Gossie?
This was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be absolutely dire. I really, really did, which is strange for me because I'm a big fan of Sting. But Nikita, Nikita was hot really in the early to mid 80s, well, the mid 80s, sort of say. And then, of course, he took that long time off because his wife was ill and unfortunately passed away. But I think the Lithuania thing killed him as a heel. I don't think it didn't matter. I mean, they're American. If you're not from America, no, I love American people, part of them. But if you're not from America, they're going to boo you if you just prod them in that direction. So he still could have been Russia. He could have been the Uruguay Nightmare or something. And Nikita, of course, he's got this mix. He looks like Goldberg's dad and Road Warrior Hawk at the same time. I'm with you. I love the hot start because every match we've seen so far starts with a lockup and goes from there. So it's nice to have that change of pace where two people just come in. And I've never got why they don't do that more. If someone's done something really dastardly to me, I'm going to want to come in there and just start beating the shit out of them. I'm not going to want to lock up with them or, do chain. And Nikita looked even more like Hawk when he just no-sold the pile driver as well. Speaking of Nikita, do you remember when his penis popped out? This is why you have me on the show for things like this.
And what show was that?
He was working Flair. It was definitely working Flair, and there's a clip of it out there. Don't worry. Tommy Young comes over
and puts it
back in.
Yes, I've heard about this. Yes,
going above and beyond the Call of Duty. Really is. My God. So yeah, there's that going. It didn't happen in this match, not that I saw. Again, you got that old lady in the front row. She's killing the crowd. She's in a good way, you know. She's keeping that crowd going. She's got an American flag. I think at one point she actually stands on the rail, you know, on the lower part of it, just to get up and get closer to it. She's really into it. They should have focused on her more.
Yeah, she had absolutely zero time for any damn commies, did she?
No,
she weren't having it from those commies.
You know, she was over the moon when they dropped the bomb. You know, back in '45. So she loves all that. She's not putting up with any shit. So she got an American flag. I tell you what, there's one thing I really liked, and I'm going to be partly serious for a moment, which is weird. There was Nikita kicked Sting at one point, and referee Bill Alfonso came over and checked the knee pad and the boot to make sure there wasn't a foreign object in there because the kick seemed so ruthless. And I thought
we don't like foreigners here.
Sorry, international object. I apologize.
We don't want any foreigners. We don't want any foreign objects. You see that flag the old lady's waving. We just want good old USA.
Exactly. The international nightmare, Nikita Koloff.
But no, yeah, that's a really good spot. Definitely, yeah. Just it's the little things that add that authenticity, isn't it?
Title of my sex tape.
Right, we will. Where are we after? Oh yes, I tell you something as well that I noticed. I don't know what you make of this, Liam. One of the earliest American wrestling tapes I ever got was a VHS hosted by Bill Apter. And it was, I believe it was like, what's it called, Ringmasters or something like that. And it was basically, it was the Great American Bash 1985 from outdoors in a stadium somewhere. And the main event is a babyface Ric Flair versus the as you were saying, Gossy, the hot heel Russian Nikita Koloff. And watching how the crowd reacts to a babyface Flair selling against Koloff at that event compared to how they're reacting to a babyface Sting against a more experienced Koloff, it's really interesting because even though Koloff's more experienced, the match isn't anywhere near as good or as intense as the Flair match, which kind of just emphasizes to me how good Flair was.
Yes. And that match as well. Do you remember when he gave the Russian sickle to David Crockett?
The referee, yeah.
No, the commentator, David Crockett.
Oh, sorry. Right, yeah. It was a clip before the show, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just sort of killed him with it as well. So, but they had that big heat. Again, I suppose you have lost that level of heat. And plus, it's the difference between Jim Crockett Promotions and 1991 WCW as well. That there's that going on. So, but yeah, Flair just obviously he's on a different level to so many guys, and so is Jim Crockett Promotion to 1991 WCW. But there we go.
Yeah. Okay. We next have Tony Schiavone in the ring with the Rap Master PN News, who is accompanied by Pepper and Spinderella from Salt and Pepper. And it's fair to say that his rapping skills are horrendous. If you're going to get someone to do this gimmick, at least get someone who can actually rap. But before he can talk with Schiavone, another WCW newcomer, Johnny B. Bad, comes down to the ring with Teddy Long. They kind of argue with each other over the mic, and then Bad and Long leave. I don't know how much it cost them to get Pepper and Spinderella for this one. Liam, this is just because WCW in a nutshell, isn't it?
Oh, massively. And it's worth saying, oh yeah, they should have got a decent rapper in. You got to remember, WCW, in their eyes, in 1991, PN News was exactly what rap was. They are massively out of touch. They have no idea of the origins of hip hop and the wars of the East Coast or the West Coast. And to be honest, I don't know too much either. I'm just like being very vague. But obviously, we do know there's much more to it, and there are people you can refer to if you want to represent that. But what they wanted was someone who says "Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo."
Yeah.
And it's the same logic that got us Men on a Mission a few years later.
Oscar was better.
Yes, he was. But this is, at this moment in WCW history, we're getting it's like they've just brought in a ton of new characters, and I remember this was like when I started getting WCW magazine as a kid, because you've got Johnny B. Bad, you've got PN News, you've got Stunning Steve Austin, you've got Black Blood, who we get a promo clip for later on, and probably others I've forgotten, and they're just throwing a load of shit at the wall at this point in time, aren't they?
Oh, 100%. It's not pretty. It's not good. It's everything's bad. It's terrible, and I don't know what they're doing, because you look at '89, how good that was. In parts of '90, it's like they've lost their mind. And there's spiraling. They really, really are. It is absolutely mental that this same company would be doing what it would do years later. This is AWA. That's where they are. They're basically, they're not as bad as AWA was at this point, but they seem to be rapidly heading in that direction. Yeah. I can't believe this company was still around a year later from watching this show. And it would only get worse. Great American Bash was much worse than this.
Oh, God, we haven't. Yeah, funnily enough, that's a show that no one said they want to cover yet. Match number 6 is a loser leaves WCW match. Arn Anderson and Barry Windham against Brian Pillman and El Gigante. So Gary Michael Capetta explains at the start of this one that the loser of the fall must leave WCW. So at least they're telling us what the stipulation is, which doesn't always happen in this promotion. We start off with Pillman and Anderson. They're straight into it. This one's going off at a very fast pace. Windham tags in. They trade chops and punches. Windham gets a 2 count with his one-arm DDT. The commentators talk about how the heels will prefer to deal with Pillman and not El Gigante due to the size difference, but they don't mention how Pillman is vastly more experienced than his rookie partner. In one high spot, Pillman climbs up onto El Gigante's shoulders and hits a spectacular cross-body block onto Windham, but Anderson makes the save. Pillman then goes up top again, but he's pushed off by Windham. Windham apparently kicks Pillman in the face, but the camera is focused on Gigante and Anderson on the floor, so we don't even see Windham make a cover, and he gets the pinfall on Brian Pillman in just 3 minutes and 8 seconds. Of course, Pillman didn't leave WCW, but returned under a mask as the Yellow Dog, where it was made obvious that it was him, and the angle didn't get over in the slightest. Liam, I'm going to go to you first. How do you do a loser leaves town match in 3 minutes?
Well, they just showed you how stupid. But yeah, that whole rehash of Yellow Dog, that was purely done for an audience of like 5 or 6 people backstage, wasn't it? Because there was the in-house, there's all the in-house references, and and that's exactly why it didn't get over. There's just no one in the crowd is invited to this reference, to this joke. It's almost like an episode of this podcast. But we're comfortable with drawing these numbers, whereas WCW, as a multinational company, are probably a little bit alarmed when they're spending millions of dollars and this is the yield. So that's how you find yourself in that situation.
Our podcast is free to download. You know, this is a company trying to promote a pay-per-view in a month's time.
We do this to entertain ourselves. We are completely happy if one man and his dog is our audience, and it just so happens that the man was Gossy. So now for this episode, the audience is just a dog. And if the dog sees a car driving past, he's going to fuck off as well. We're okay with that.
Is this an advert for the show? Can you cut this bit to the
Yep.
We should advertise it.
Yeah, well, this is exactly how we sell the show. This is the premise of it. Come and be in rarefied air and be one of the few people who actually listens to us. Makes you special.
It certainly does.
Exclusive club.
As long as no cars go past.
As long as no cars go
I'll
past.
probably chase the car, to be fair. I'm blaming the dog, but I'd follow the car.
Yeah.
I'd rather have followed the car than watched a lot of this show. This, though, was the greatest match El Gigante's ever had. Without question.
Can you just pick that bar up off the floor? It's a bit low.
It was, because he got in the ring once illegally to do the jumpy thing, and then he just put the claw on Arn. Yeah. And that was it. And God, there's so many great El Gigante moments, but I'd have to put this one would be there. It was, for only 3 minutes, though, the stuff between Pillman and Arn and Barry was so good. It really, really was. Just if you watch that, it's so good, the stuff they've got. And, as long as he stays in the ring, we're fine. And then out of nowhere, the match is over. And they miss the finish, because WCW.
Because WCW. Yeah.
And Arn even took a drop kick he's on the top rope and he got drop kicked and went all the way to the floor. I mean, I'm not bothering with this 3-minute match. They'd be lucky if they got a bump out of me. I'm taking bumps off the top rope to the floor. Sod that. Bless him.
Trying to give us our money's worth. We then go to the Great American Bash Control Center, where Paulie Dangerously is now being a straight broadcaster, and we have a video package of highlights of last year's pay-per-view, followed by a plug for this year's one. This is free television. I can understand why they'd put on a plug for a pay-per-view. We then have footage of the Steiners winning the IWGP World Tag Team titles at the Tokyo Dome at the WCW New Japan Super Show earlier in the year, which was called Starrcade 91 in Japan and the Super Show in America. And that leads us into our next match. Match number 7 is for the IWGP World Tag Team Championships, as Hiroshi Hase and Shinya Hashimoto challenge the Steiner brothers. Now, Liam, we all know what happens usually when New Japan stars come to wrestle on WCW TV, don't we?
Yeah, it's generally much better on paper than it is in reality, shall we say.
Yeah.
But before I go more into detail, I just want to point out, when you said earlier about the Great American Bash 91 Control Center, that was funny. Like they had any control over that shit show. Fucking Control Center, my ass. Anyway, now I've got that out of my system. Yes, in particular, the Steiners are one of the biggest culprits, where it always felt like, I know we've disagreed on some of the Steiner versus Japan matches we've seen, but the general consensus does seem to be that if they are wrestling Japanese opponents, the only real go-to they have is to just do a bunch of stuff against whichever opponent is willing to take it.
Like poor Takayuki Iizuka, you mean?
Compared to his tag partner, who's my mind's blanking today, but
Fujinami, wasn't it?
Yeah, we go someone more high profile, more experienced, and he's like, nope, he's not taking that
fuck
stuff.
That shit. Yeah,
that is a very good time to bust out the Randy Savage creative control note, because that is pretty much what he did. He was like, I'm not taking this stuff. Whereas his tag team partner's like, well, I need to make a name for myself. Yeah, do what you want. Rip my head off and play basketball with it. I don't care.
Yeah, I've also realised that I've got the name. For some reason, I've written Shinya Hashimoto, and it was Masahiro Chono. It was
Racist.
I don't know why I've put a completely different New Japan wrestler at that point, but
it's the same reason.
Hase and Chono.
It's the same reason that Darren earlier, the one time El Gigante got in the ring, he had to say that he got in illegally. It's the same reason. You are both bigoted. It's the only possible explanation.
He got in internationally. That's how he got in.
Yeah. So yes, the Steiners won the belts from Chono and Kensuke Sasaki. So it's now Hase replacing him in the team to try and recapture the titles.
Who's in this match now? We got Hashimoto, we got Hase, we've got Mr. Saito, Mr. Fuji. I don't know what the hell's going on. What did I watch?
The Steiners won the belts at the Tokyo Dome from Masahiro Chono and Kensuke Sasaki.
Did it get 5 stars from Dave Meltzer because it was in the dome?
Yes. But now Sasaki is out and Hase is in. So it's Chono and Hase in. So
what happened to Hashimoto? Where does he come into this?
He was never there in the first place. He was doing Saito. Saito was putting boulders through McDonald's. He was busy. The first offensive move sees an enziguri from Hase sending Scott tumbling to the floor, but Scott hits back with a stun gun for a 2 count. Hase has got an idea of playing to the crowd and adapting himself to an American audience quite well. We then switch to Rick and Masahiro Chono. Rick barely sells several Yakuza kicks from Chono and lands a big Steiner line for a big pop. The Steiners hit a double team top rope elbow drop from Rick while Chono is draped over Scott's shoulders, but only gets a 2 count. Chono lands a top rope shoulder block on Rick while he's being held in the air by Harsey. Harsey continues to heal it up while Chono clamps on the SDF on Rick in the middle of the ring while all attention is on Scott and Harsey fighting at ringside. And I'm sure you'll pick up on this when we come to you, Darren, but to me, yeah, if this was in Japan, it'd be a major focal point of the match. But in America, no one knows about the SDF yet, and no one gives it any attention.
Especially Tony Schiavone, as well.
Especially Tony Schiavone. Scott absolutely nails Harsey with a huge clothesline, a tilt-a-whirl slam, and a tiger driver. That's followed by a belly-to-belly superplex, but Chono makes the save. Harsey lands a dragon suplex, but now Rick makes the save. Scott then hits the Frankenstein on Harsey while Rick trips Chono and stops him making the save. The Steiners therefore retain the titles in 8 minutes 14 seconds. They get jumped by the hardliners, Dick Murdoch and Dick Slater afterwards, and we go straight to a commercial break while the attack's still going on. And I think I'm right in saying that, because they were saying this in the commentary afterwards, the story was meant to be that Rick Steiner had injured his arm, and in reality, Scott Steiner had a legitimate bicep tear from that attack and was out on the shelf for several months afterwards.
And came back as a balloon.
Came back as an angry balloon, yes. So, Darren, now we have finally and firmly established who the actual participants were. What did you make of our IWGP tag title match?
This match shouldn't have been on this show. This was so out of place. It was a good match, and it was, as you say, yeah, this should be on like a Japanese show, or this should be on Wrestle War 92 or something. This should not be in this point of 91. The Bushwhackers should have been out there or something. It was good. It was, for what it was, as a culture shock from everything we've just seen, PN News and everything. Of course, you've missed the biggest part of this match, and that's when Tiger Chun-Li kicked Rick Steiner in the head, and his gimmick broke. Can I just add, I'm throwing Japanese names in, not to be racist. It's just that you got it wrong. It's not that I can't differentiate. I'm going to suddenly stop doing that in this modern day culture. Good God.
Look, I know I've been ribbing you guys about being racist, whatever, but now that Dick Murdoch has showed up on the show,
there you go.
It would be inappropriate to accuse you two of being racist. So
exactly.
I will refrain.
It's the pair of dicks came running out at the end.
No, that was TNA.
No, when the Dicks in WWE and they had the Johnsons in TNA.
Yes, the Dicks were WWE, two quite short guys that were brothers, and the Johnsons were the ones who dressed up in
like
penis
condoms.
Oh, yes. I am sorry, guys. I bow to your superior knowledge of innuendo-laced tag teams. I'm sorry. Please accept my apologies.
Anything about penis-based tag teams, I'm your man.
That's got to go in the Twitter bio.
That's all I've got. And then on top of that, Nikita Koloff's penis coming out. There's a lot of penis talk tonight. Hopefully, I think we'll knock it on the head there.
No, we're calling it as we see it. If everyone's gonna, a load of dicks are gonna run out and people's cocks are gonna fall out of their trunks. We've got to talk about what happens. We don't control this, do we?
We don't control it.
We're not the Great American Bash 1991 Control Center. We have no control.
That was so bad. Why is Paulie just an? Oh God, it was what the hell?
Why?
There's no continuity in WCW.
But there is nothing. Anyone else could have done that. The STF situation. Schiavone calls it a step over toe deathlock. To which JR then immediately says, "Oh yeah, the STF," and it's just no, it's the STD now. It's a sexually transmitted disease, which is oh God,
I thought we were done with the dick references.
The STD.
Come on, man.
That's my new favorite move is the STD. But now, I'm right in saying that Luther's final match was against Masachono, wasn't it?
Yes. When he was 74 years old, yes.
And did he break his hip or something? And they had to just go to the finish?
I don't know. You're going to have to look that up now.
I think that something happened. He injured his hip or something happened, and they had to go straight to the finish. I think it was, I don't know. Now, Dory Funk, we're all over the place now. Dory Funk Jr. is still wrestling. I saw him have a match. It was like The Walking Dead. It's terrifying. Because what is he, like 81 now or something?
Yeah, he's pretty old. Yeah.
Yeah, he's making Mae Young look like Roman Reigns or something. It's yeah. So, but anyways, speaking of which, you had the. God, I'm still just trying to think of how racist Dick Murdoch was and in that company at this time, and it is mental anyone was employing him. But didn't he have a contract with, was it Cause or something like that, where he was like a spokesman for them?
I don't know. Didn't know
Somebody like that had something like that, and he was able to get like unlimited booze, and this is why the boys loved having him around. So it could explain why he's here at this point, but no, it's a shame. It's and they both, because it was Dirty Dick Murdoch and Dirty Dick Slater, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they're both Dirty Dicks, yeah. I think I'm going to stop talking about this match.
Liam, anything to add to this one?
What do you think?
Save us. Come on.
I mean, I really, really like the tag match. I can add that much. Get us back on topic a little bit.
It was a good match. It was definitely a good match. Rick Steiner's headgear got damaged, but it was a good match.
Here's a funny side note for you. On this very day that we're recording, I actually got a message from Rick Steiner on LinkedIn congratulating me for my new job.
Did you really?
Wow.
True story.
I didn't know that you and Rick Steiner were such good friends.
We're not, but that's it. I don't know if you guys are on LinkedIn, but it's generally the nature of it is that you tend to add lots of people that you don't really add to your Facebook or things where you add your friends and that. You add like potential contacts who work in similar or adjacent businesses to potentially like have people to reach out to and things like that. And it normally results in a lot of cold calls from people saying, "Can you get me a job at, insert my company there with Eurosport, Yahoo, or whatever." And this instance, I'm getting like some pretty famous boxers, wrestlers, a few other people on my list saying, "Congrats on your new job." I'm like, "Cheers! I have to change my job more often just to get you guys to reach out to me."
Yeah.
I have to invite him on the show.
Definitely. Yeah, get Rick Steiner on.
Welcome to the Dog Pound.
Right, let's move on. Match number 8 is the Diamond Stud with He's Back, Diamond Dallas Page against Tommy Rich. So the former world champion Tommy Rich doesn't even get an entrance and is presented as a prelim jobber here. And this is another squash match lasting 1 minute 59 seconds. The crowd are pretty much silent for this one. Rich gets about 20 seconds of offense and misses a cross body block off the middle rope, which allows the Stud to land the Diamond Death Drop, which would become better known as the Razor's Edge in the WWF for the pin. Not an awful lot to say about this, but what I can't help but notice is the difference in presentation of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash here compared to how they'd be presented by the WWF like 12 to 18 months later. Chalk and cheese, isn't it?
It is. Diamond Stud is not a million miles away from Razor Ramon either.
No.
Even I forgot he even had the little toothpick thing going for him there. I mean, his attire is atrocious. Not so much when he walks to the ring and the woman pulls his trousers off. It's like, okay, that doesn't sound good if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's his in-ring, it's his entrance gear she pulls off. He doesn't stand there with his penis out again. And it just keeps going back to it all the time. But no, he's wearing like, what was it, like black and fluorescent green clothes, trunks, and then he's got
black trunks with a fluorescent green diamond over the crotch.
Yeah,
and then the word stud like really badly sewn onto the back.
And the fluorescent green elbow pad, I think, as well.
Ah, yes.
Just looked abysmal. I mean, he looked great. He looked huge. And the match was what it needed to be. We didn't need this to go any longer than it did. I'm fine with it. DDP's still very annoying, and he's too tall to be a manager. But then, there we go.
Liam?
Well, Darren, you'd be pleased to know that he didn't stay a manager for too long.
He didn't, no.
Yeah, it's funny to see what Scott Hall became, wasn't it? It was always a little bit weird in the Diamond Stud days because they clearly had high hopes for him. You know, he had the look, obviously. He got a decent push. They made sure he was on TV, but they just didn't know what to exactly do with him. And he probably the timing of his jump was probably perfect because you never stop and think to yourself, oh yeah, can't wait for that big program coming up between Sting and the Studs. You know, you just said, well, he's just probably gonna just float around for the foreseeable.
They
Yeah,
didn't seem to know what to do with anyone at this point.
Fair
You
point,
know,
well
all
made.
of them are just
yeah,
just
and
bobbing
then
in the water.
yeah, and then you think about and we've obviously been watching the Nitros from this era where they come back to WCW as as the outsiders, as Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and all of a sudden they're major stars because the WWE took them, gave them new gimmicks, and made them stars.
Yeah,
Well, we'd built
in
up a
very
bit more.
rapid time.
Yeah, he'd obviously built up a bit of reputation by that point as well, which
Yeah,
helps. But I will say that I did really enjoy his WCW theme.
Diamond Stud.
Yeah, it was just a good generic guitar riff.
Yeah,
Really reminded me of the early 90s.
it was. It had WCW written all over it. Definitely. It's no Jim Johnson masterpiece.
Some of them were good. I mean, some of those early ones, they're memorable. Some of them not so much. Some of them have been dubbed over. I don't even know if they've been dubbed over or not. They're so generic. Um, but my favorite thing on the show is coming next.
Okay. We then go to Jim Ross, and he is with a young lad called Ben, who apparently is from Knoxville, who won a Sting lookalike contest. Ben doesn't look anything like Sting, apart from the fact that he's got face paint on. That's about it, really. Um, Sting comes out to meet him, having redone his face paint after the Koloff match, and in a remarkable coincidence, they have very similar face paint on, almost as if this was all planned in advance. But Sting is then attacked by Nikita Koloff, and Koloff looks like he's going to attack Ben for being a Sting fan. Ben's mother then hops the rail to protect her son, and Doug Dillinger steps in. Koloff is then ushered away. Young Ben goes over to check on his hero Sting. In reality, it was a busy night for the Sullivan family because Ben was actually Kevin Sullivan's son. And the Sting lookalike contest was, of course, as real as that Intercontinental title tournament in Rio de Janeiro. But it was a fun little angle, wasn't it, Gossie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you though. I mean, Ben didn't look anything like Sting. Sting's got a good physique. He's much taller. He's got blonde hair. This is just a kid with face paint on. You're not fooling me. It's not a lookalike. They're nothing like him. So there's one terrifying moment where Sting does pick up poor Ben and just says how excited he is, and kids make him really excited or something like that. That could have gone. I didn't know where this angle was going at this point. I was hoping Ben was going to turn on Sting. That didn't happen.
No, that would be if Ben had won a Dustin Rhodes lookalike contest.
Or if you'd have waited another 8 years, bro.
Well, no, I don't know. I was going more towards Sandman and Raven, to be honest. Have something there. I don't know. Sting's maybe Ben's dad. Now we're going back through Russo again. We're all over the place with it. But the one thing I was hoping was that Sting was going to duck from that lariat and they were going to hit Ben with it instead. Ben would have bladed, but you couldn't see because of the shitty paint job. So the whole thing was ruined. So from this show so far, I've got a feud coming out with. I haven't got a feud. I can see a feud coming out with PN News and Johnny B. Bad, which thrilling, and now Nikita Koloff and Ben's mother. So
well, that's the feud. That's where the money is.
That's the feud because Sting was useless. Sting got battered immediately, but he wasn't sure what to do with Ben's mother. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next there.
See, Liam.
Yes, Sting.
And you. Any thoughts on this one? Anything you would like to add?
I'll say one thing. It would have been so much better if they're going to have someone come to the kids' rescue. They should have recruited that old lady. They should have called an audible and asked her if she wanted to come and defend this little kid from that goddamn commie.
Yeah, but I think she they asked her, but she refused to do the job.
She'd have pulled a gun on him, I reckon. To
Probably.
defend my freedoms.
Yeah. No, that's a good shout. She probably would.
Would have been the most entertaining thing on the show, to be fair.
Definitely. Yeah. Right, we will move on to match number 9. We're nearly there. It's the Great Muta versus Lex Luger. And this match is for the number 1 contendership to face Ric Flair at the Great American Bash. Yeah. Now, this is where I'm getting a bit confused because the on-screen, those on-screen graphics Gossi was telling us about before, they tell us that Muta is the number 1 contender for the world title, despite the fact that the WCW Top 10 that was shown about 30 minutes ago told us that Lex Luger was in that position. And then Jim Ross tells us that Luger's the number 1 contender too.
But Bobby Eaton's getting the title shot.
And Bobby Eaton's getting the title shot.
Well, look, guys. Everyone can make mistakes. Let's be honest, right? Let's not ride WCW for making one little one-off lapse, all right? Let's just chill.
Yeah. El Gigante's the number 1 contender, and I won't have otherwise. Ben's mother should be.
He's number 3, I think. We then see Bill Kazmaier in the audience wearing one of those sort of sketched shirts that were around at the time before
the
they
real number 1 contender.
Yeah, he is.
He looks like a roided Tim White as well.
Not going to unsee that now.
Yeah, and do you know what I'm also thinking when I watch Great Muta is that in this age of COVID, surely now Japanese wrestlers blowing green mist at you is taking on an added layer of danger.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to say it's the finish, but
Yeah.
Moving on.
Luger no-sells a Muta chop and gets a 2 count with a belly-to-back suplex. Luger hoists Muta up for a press slam, but Muta then lands a spinning kick to the jaw of Luger. He misses a handspring elbow and flies over the turnbuckle to the floor. Muta then goes to blow that mist at Luger, but Luger puts his arms up to his face to avoid getting it in his eyes. Muta then charges at Luger. Luger hits a power slam, and he gets the win in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. So yeah, you bring Great Muta over for a TV match and have it go less than 4 minutes.
Mental. It was. See, I'm torn because if the match was longer, because Luger's in it, it would not have been any good as it was, if that makes any sense. Yeah. Muta took an incredible bump off that handspring elbow thing.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? I actually rewound that, which I hadn't done since Ben was around. Here's a thought now. Hypothetically, let's say Flair doesn't leave. Where do they go then with it? Do they still put the belt on Lex, do you think?
Yeah, because if you remember the timeline at the time, there was a big thing around it that Luger had choked, quote unquote, too many times. He had too many matches, and it was surely going to be the moment where he finally beat Flair. And if I remember correctly, it was. I mean, it's not that Flair. Obviously, he put plenty of people over. Probably wasn't against losing the belt to Luger per se, but there were many things that were really rubbing up Flair the wrong way at this point in time, including Jim Herd's views on his look and this, that, and the other, and I think also what they had planned for Flair after he dropped the title, like he was. They were going to try and pack him off just to be like a bit part player in undercard tag matches or something. So I think the whole thing just left a bad taste in his mouth. But yeah, absolutely, Luger's winning the title because they couldn't go any other way. When they were without Flair, it's like, what do we do now? Oh yeah, we'll turn him heel.
See, I'm watching this match, and in my weird world, I've got Flair versus Muta in a cage at Great American Bash.
I'd have liked that. That'd have been pretty
See,
sweet.
there you go. But they killed Muta, didn't they? Starrcade '89. That was the death knell of Muta in WCW.
Yeah, because he lost all 3 matches.
Every match. But didn't the Samoan SWAT team as well?
Yes.
Didn't they lose every match? Because I remember Corny talking about this, saying how because the Midnight Express weren't in there, and they were like, just put us in there and we'll job the we'll do the job for everyone. But they were like, no, you're not going in there. Just crazy. Just absolutely crazy. But yeah, Muta, oh God, Muta could have been really something for them. I think. I'm not saying he should have been world champion or anything, but he could have got over as a face. I really think he could
absolutely. Because he's one of those. Well, first of all, he was different to any of the other Japanese wrestlers that they'd had over previously. He had, the gimmick was stronger than was the central point, but then when he wrestled, when the bell rang, he was a phenomenal wrestler.
Yeah.
And even though he was put with Gary Hart and Terry Funk and guys that you wanted to boo, everyone could see the talent in the guy, and he was one of those heels that people wanted to cheer and were waiting for that moment. All you needed to do was to have him blow mist in Gary Hart's face. Great visual there, and he's babyface and he's massively over.
Imagine if they'd splintered off there with a heel Terry Funk against Muta. A fair face Muta. You know what it is? It's because he's Japanese.
Yeah.
And in that mindset, especially the mindset of that old lady in the front row. But no, they're looking at it thinking, he's Japanese, he can't be a face. And it's sad, but that's a mentality that went on a lot longer than 1991 did, unfortunately.
Definitely, yeah, and I'm not saying it's right, but that was the mentality.
That's where we are.
You can't have the American fans won't cheer a Japanese guy. Well, yes, they will if he's that good a wrestler.
Of course, God, this company was just crying out for anything at this point. There's no way this idea wouldn't have been thrown around by some people just for it to be shut down, because it's dire. It really is. But there we go.
Yeah, but I think as well that Muta was, whereas in '89 he was based in the US, in '91 he was back in Japan and he was wrestling the vast majority of his matches in New Japan as Keiji Muta.
They'd lost at that point, but earlier on when they'd had him, 89, 90, they could have. I'm sure if they're going to say, look, we're going to give you a top run as a face, and maybe even put the belt on him, then they could have swapped things around a bit with his dates, but wasn't to be.
Yes. Okay, match number 10 is Steve Austin with Lady Blossom, who, of course, has been a guest on this show, versus Joey Maggs, perennial WCW preliminary wrestler. We go straight into the next match after the break. Both competitors are already in the ring, as we have had an Austin video package rather than a live entrance. This is going to be another squash match. Austin pretty much lands a stun gun straight away. For some reason, inexplicably, he delays for a moment. Then he pins Maggs, and the whole match lasts 25 seconds. And I think the video package... am I right in saying, Liam, that the video package lasts longer than the match?
Not only did it last longer than the match, but it also contained footage. They decided to take some footage for the B-roll of Austin sporting the TV title that hadn't yet aired. Because WCW.
There you go.
Because the belt is still in at this point in time. We are about to have a main event where the TV champion changes the world champion, and they go and do that. Silly fuckers.
Eaton didn't have the TV belt around his waist, though, did he? At that on this show, or did he? I can't remember.
You might be right, but as far as the timeline goes, they have done cocked up there.
So they have shown they've shown Steve Austin wearing the TV belt before he's won it.
Most people say the thing about WCW is they were a TV company doing wrestling. Well, that is a TV error. That is a television gaff that'd get you fired from TV production. That's not a wrestling gaff, that's a TV gaff. So they can't even fucking do that right.
Right, yeah. So this show aired live on TBS on June the 14th, 1991. Austin won the belt at a worldwide wrestling taping on June the 3rd. So he'd won it just under 2 weeks before. But as you quite rightly say, the episode hadn't aired yet. It actually aired on the 29th of June. So yeah, we're in that sweet spot right between the two events, and they go and do that. Brilliant.
This is far too confusing for me. I've switched off.
Well, I'm afraid to say, Gossy, that doing time-lapsed title reigns would be very much a WCW thing. Apparently, the rule is they have to do a negative title change like once a year.
Oh, they did that before, yeah.
And they do it again.
So basically, the match was taped. The match where Austin became TV champion was taped at the beginning of June, but it didn't air on TV till the end of June, and this is the middle of June, and they've spoilt the result for us.
Yeah, TV balls up. That is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Just do an entrance. They did that video package instead of an entrance. Just get him to walk out with one of those robes, get Lady Blossom's boobs juggling about. That will tell you everything you need to know about him. But instead, they spoil a big title change. Oh, WCW. The gift that keeps on giving.
And on top of that, there's something else in that package as well, which I couldn't help but notice. And there is nobody in the crowd. They're showing this one, literally, there's row upon row upon row upon row of empty seats. And why are they putting that on television? Why would you show that willingly?
Hold on a minute. I've got the answer on my card here. Apparently, the answer is because WCW.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how TNA did that thing where they did lockdown and every match was a cage match. WCW started it. They did every match that was an empty arena match.
Hey.
It was popularised especially in the early 90s and in 99, 2000, 2001.
They would have loved it around now with the COVID era. They would have been in there.
Oh man,
they'd have had an excuse.
But WCW were never really thinking much about like the atmosphere or the effect, the impression they were creating with their videos. Because when we looked a couple of weeks ago, we looked at the Too Cold Scorpio character intro video of him like doing some like urban dancing with some kids from school, and they decided that they were going to film it in the middle of winter on an overcast day with loads of puddles on the floor of a playground, rather than like wait until they're on a loop in Florida or something.
It's climate change.
That was part of it though, wasn't it? There was supposed to be like this gritty urban street thing, wasn't it? Where they're not at school, and I think that was a deliberate part of it. The problem is they were massively portraying like a horrible stereotype.
To me, it was just a man dancing in puddles with children.
Well, also known as a typical Friday.
Oh, fair enough.
I can't let that go without mentioning in that music video, it all starts, and then this lady in the background with kids just all of a sudden screams out, "Look out, here comes Too Cold Scorpio." And it is literally one of my favorite things. But it's probably my top 5 favorite things in wrestling ever.
And she did it. The randomness. She did it just like the lady in his theme song does it, which is uncanny.
It is weird, isn't it? It's strange. Like,
what are the chances?
I wish they'd have the old lady do it instead. Just in the front row here.
I think the old lady has got to be the photo for this episode.
She would not have agreed to have done a Too Cold Scorpio video. Don't ask me why. I just get this feeling she wouldn't have been on board. Feeling,
yeah.
Would she be in a PN News video?
We then see a promo video for another newcomer who did nothing in WCW, the batshit crazy looking masked Black Blood, who was the batshit crazy Billy Jack Haynes.
No, Billy Jerk Haynes.
Thank you very much, Bobby Heenan.
Still real to me, damn it.
It's still real, yeah. Next, we have another non-wrestling segment as Alexandra York introduces the latest member of the York Foundation. And spoilers alert, we've already realised who could it possibly be. It's Ricky Morton, now Richard Morton, looking resplendent, rocking a suit and mullet combo. Robert Gibson comes to the ring to ask him what's going on. So obviously Morton attacks him and pile drives his former partner. Right.
What the hell was Robert Gibson wearing as well? My God.
He looked like a tramp.
And to think that'd be the only time that he'd wear this suit as part of the York Foundation thing, because for all of the matches he'd just go back to wearing the same old fucking Rock and Roll Express tights.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. He should have just, I don't know, maybe just wore this suit to wrestle. Would have been better than just coming out there. Yeah.
Or heaven forbid, invested in a new pair of tights. Yeah.
Well, that's not going to happen.
No, of course not. Right. I tell a lie, by the way. It's 11 matches. There was a 12th match, but that was a dark match, so it doesn't count.
It does. I want to know what it was.
I can tell you that it was Ricky Nelson beating El Cubano, whoever he may be. And that apparently lasted 6 minutes. So that went like the most of the matches on the show.
It wouldn't have been in the second half of this show, I can tell you.
Yeah. So it's a 2 out of 3 falls match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Bobby Eaton versus the champion Ric Flair. The WWE Network have only gone and edited both wrestlers' entrance music like the absolute bastards that they are. Now, I don't know if you know this one, but legend has it that Flair specifically requested to have Eaton as his opponent for this one.
Yes, I believe so. And a few times this had happened because they were looking to prove that they could consistently get ratings with good wrestlers in this era. And so I actually went back and did a little bit of research, which shocked even me. So Clash 14 got a 3.9, and that was headlined with Flair versus Scott Steiner.
Right.
So Clash 15 with Flair and Eaton also got a 3.9. So it stayed consistent, which showed that there wasn't a huge problem. It's not like it dropped to a 3 or something with Eaton there. Now, the next, good God, Clash 16 did drop a bit to 3.7, but the main event of that was Arn and Larry Zbyszko against Rick Steiner and Bill Kazawacki, whatever his name. There you go, easy for you to say. And because obviously, as you said, Scott was out injured. But that was 3 minutes and 33 seconds. That was the main event.
Blimey.
So, yeah, a bit of a drop down because obviously, like, we haven't got Flair anymore. We've no idea what to do. We haven't got Scott Steiner, anything. Let's put Bill Kazmaier in the main event, which would have been my immediate thoughts as well. I would have put Johnny B. Bad, PN News in the main event on a scaffold match.
I was going to say I'd pay to see that, but I probably wouldn't.
Probably,
Yeah. So the match starts with each man trying to outwit the other, which ends with Flair getting clotheslined over the top rope. Flair's did a great job of making Eaton appear to be his equal and appear to be a valid threat to the title, which of course it's something that Flair was great at doing. It's something Flair was used to doing as the touring world champion back in the day, I suppose. Flair's chops land, but Eaton bounces back and clamps on a short arm scissors on the canvas. Flair eventually gets to the ropes. He goes to the floor. Eaton follows him, and then Flair catches him with a boot to the face as he gets back into the ring. Eaton then gets thrown into the turnbuckle. His head hits the connecting steel. Flair is in control, landing a butterfly suplex and getting a 2 count with his feet on the ropes. In what may surprise you, the momentum of the match shifts when Eaton intercepts Flair on the top rope and slams him to the floor. Now Eaton's in control of the match, lands his trademark swinging neck breaker. He slams Flair, goes up top, lands that amazing Alabama Jam top rope leg drop to win the first fall. And that is in 9 minutes 45. And what I found funny as well, I don't know if you noticed this, but the WWE Network have forgotten to edit Eaton's original entrance music out of the broadcast because they play it just under the action during the replay of Eaton's winning fall. Eaton starts off the second session on the front foot. He's getting several close 2 counts. He tries to win 2-0. But to me, and I'm sure we'll cover this when we go to you guys, but to me, the crowd don't seem to be completely invested in it. Is in that they're enjoying the match, but they're not buying Eaton as a serious threat to the title, despite Flair's best efforts. Eaton goes up top. Flair shakes the ropes. Eaton falls to the floor, landing from the floor, falls from the top rope to the floor, landing on his knee, and he's unable to get back into the ring. And Flair therefore wins the second fall by count out in 11 minutes 42 seconds. And with Eaton's knee injured, you know the writing's on the wall. The commentators speculate that Eaton might not be able to continue, but Flair comes out to the floor to meet him. They get back into the ring. Eaton lands a superplex for a 2 count, but again, the crowd aren't buying it. Flair then hits his patented knee drop, or knee breaker move, I should say, clamps on the figure 4 using the ropes for leverage. He gets caught by the referee. Flair goes for it again, but Eaton catches him with a small package for a 2 count. Flair then locks on the figure 4 again in the centre of the ring, uses the rope for leverage again, but this time Eaton gets counted with his shoulders down on the mat. Flair wins 2 falls to 1 in 14 minutes 26 seconds to retain the title. Jim Ross says, as things stand right now, which is quite prophetic, Flair will face Luger for the world title at the Great American Bash. Gossy, what do you think of this main event, Eaton v Flair?
I loved it, but I just, you get angry thinking this could have had half hour, and they could have got rid of so much of the crap. It really, it was frustrating to me because there's so much more we could have had out of this. But it was a great match of the night for me, without question. I loved the hip toss into the short arm scissors and the roll through that Bobby was doing while keeping on that short arm scissors, rolling Flair around. The psychology, the storytelling of Flair knocking him off the top rope, not even knocking him off the top rope, but Flair just sort of exhaustedly fell onto the top rope, hitting the top rope, sorry. So it wasn't as if, Flair just managed. Again, that's the genius of this. So Eaton goes down, the knee's injured. Flair can't beat him the second time. He only loses by count out. And when he does beat him, it's by cheating. So it makes Bobby look strong. Coming out of this, you do wonder why they didn't try and do more with Bobby, because he would just flounder. I mean, you got the confusion of the TV title, but as you say, he's, for all intents and purposes, not the champion at this point, even though he is. And then he just floundered really until the Dangerous Alliance. It was just nothing they were doing with him. And I get it. He's not the most charismatic. He wasn't the greatest talker in the world. But in that ring, there's very, very few better, especially when they knew they were losing Flair. I'm not saying put him in the main event. I'm not saying anything like that, but do something with him, because there's really nothing. But overall, a fantastic match. Really glad to be watching this in line of what's happened. And I just loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And bear in mind, to me, as you say, they didn't know what to do with him. And the Great American Bash pay-per-view the next month, he was in a capture the flag scaffold match, teaming with PN News against Steve Austin and Terrence Taylor. And it was capture the flag because no one wanted to take the bump off the scaffold. And why should they, for a match that hadn't had any build-up? But yeah, he was, as you say, he was just, that's just a random tag match, basically.
Just hideous. That match is, and oh god, as you say, he takes a bump up there, he takes a backdrop up there. But I remember PN News just being terrified, not moving. I think he just holds onto the railing the entire match. Every now and then comes out and tries to do a stomp and then go. And I don't blame him. I'd be the same up there as well.
Oh god, that'd be awful. Yeah,
terrifying, awful matches. What the earth they exist. Going back to what you said earlier, though, about the crowd not being massively into it. This is a massive problem in modern wrestling. The moment someone starts to get a bit of momentum, they immediately throw them into the main event instead of actually building them up so they seem like a main eventer. Like the Jinder Mahal thing, for example, where they just stuck him up there. Happens a lot. But back then, you've got this confusion as well of this bloody number one contender thing that they never stop going on about. So Bobby Eaton's not named as the number one contender at any point during this show. He just happens to be in this match for some reason. Well, if it's Luger or it's whoever the hell it is. So you've got that where they're not making a point. They're not making a big deal of Bobby Eaton being the number one contender and how he's deserving of this. They're too busy going on about bloody Luger all the time. So already at this point, he's an afterthought. I think that hurts. And also, again, when I said about rushing it through, it's like Cornette and Stan Lane leave, the Midnight Express are no more, and they just shoot him straight into this, which, let's be honest, he wasn't ready for this at the moment. Well, physically, obviously, from a worker's point of view, he was, but in the fans' eyes, he's not a main eventer. No, so there you go. There's my soliloquy for the night.
But as we said, is one of his few times that he's as a singles wrestler in a main event, and the match itself was tremendous, given the constraints they were working in.
I was just great. I mean, as I say, the only minor things I had is just the frustration of how they're presenting it, because it's going to be so much better, and the length of time it could have had, considering there's so much utter drivel on this show, apart from Ben.
And I mean, I think that's the key to this whole show. Before we look at the show as a whole, I'll go over to you, Liam, because we've dedicated this whole episode to the memory of Bobby Eaton, and here we have this main event. What are your thoughts that you want to add on this one?
Well, it reminds me very much of some of the happier memories of the Nitro watch-alongs, where some of the underrated moments have come, where you've had these very unorthodox pairings of wrestlers. As we said, it's a bit out of left field that Bobby Eaton's challenging for the world title. But just like how we've got a kick out of things like Eddie Guerrero and the Barbarian, Dean Malenko versus Sting, there's certain matches you really want to see. And I suppose you look at it one ways, WCW at this point didn't have that flagship show like Nitro became. They had their television specials. In the Nitro era, the clashes became obsolete and then died off. Whereas in this case, the clashes were this. So I suppose in their minds, it was as good a time to do it. They're not going to main event a pay-per-view, but they want to. This is the umpteenth time that Ric Flair has been on top as champion. They hoped that Sting would carry them for years and years, but in that first title reign, he just didn't click as like the guy to carry the company on his shoulders. So back to Flair they went, and that's why we got the Scott Steiner defenses and the Bobby Eaton defenses, because they had to change it up a bit before eventually trying to correct the mistake they repeated over and over again with Lex Luger and finally mint him in the way they never could before. So that's just kind of what they do. This Ric Flair title reign was very much a holding pattern. So I don't blame him for wanting to go out there and say, right, give me a match with Eaton then. Give me a match here. He's well reported he had a very high opinion of Scott Steiner before Steiner was willing to break up the tag team. So he was like, "Give me Scott Steiner." This was Ric Flair calling his shots, and it's a big testament to things like the upside of Scott Steiner and just the quality of Bobby Eaton overall, and how highly he was regarded by the rest of the roster. That Ric Flair will go, right. You want to give me another title reign? You want me to try and do things differently? Give me that guy. I'll make some magic. And for what they had to work with, it was very, very fun. It felt rushed, but that's because they rushed them.
Yeah, everything on this was rushed. Yeah. I suppose that's a nice segue to just talk about the show as a whole. And I mean, I think you touched on it earlier, Gossie, that they could have had half the number of matches, cut some of the segments, and we'd have had a much, much more enjoyable show.
Yeah, not just for the main event. More things could have been given. Other matches could have been given more time, like the Pillman one, for example. That was ridiculously short. I mean, obviously, and they could have had somebody there apart from bloody El Gigante. But I get it. They're trying with him. They wanted him to be their Andre, and that's not going to work for a million reasons, which we don't need to go into now. But it's so much on there. Again, you get to a point where everything is just rushing through. Like Steve Austin comes out, hits his finisher, and wins. It's like, well, what is the point of any of this? Why are you putting that package on before of him when you've got this and the Black Blood, whatever his name is, doesn't even appear on the show. What the hell's going on? It's crazy. It really is. It's a mess. It's 1991 WCW. This show.
Yeah, and as we've established, they didn't know what to do with things, with
No.
people, or with,
Even at
with
this
things.
point, Flair hadn't even left yet, and they've no real direction. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, we want to do that with Luger, but who's going to be his opponents? What are they going to do? You know, there's no heels now really. So there's a lot of loose cracks there. They go, and I mean, ultimately they end up turning Luger heel, but I don't know if they would have done that if Flair had left.
True. Yeah. And then obviously, yeah, we go into the Great American Bash '91 with a pay-per-view where crowd chant "We want Flair" throughout the entire main event.
Oh, I'd be chanting "We want euthanasia" if I was in that crowd watching that. Jesus wept.
But yeah, I think, you know, had we had, I mean, those last three matches, you know, Eaton for not Austin and Max, but you know, Eaton v Flair, Luger v Sting, Steiner's against Hase and Shono. Those three is the sort of the feature match, and the loser leaves town, as you say. You know, the name value, and Sting. You got Sting Koloff as well. You know, just those matches and on the card, and given the right amount of time, this could have been such a different show.
And the Ben thing, obviously,
and obviously the Ben thing.
And Jason Hervey getting hit with the gimmick phone guitar, but the rest of it is just filler. You know, I do get the Hervey thing because he was a name and they're trying to do something. So yeah, I put him back on there as well with Paulie, because that ended up being the main event of Great American Bash, didn't it? That mixed.
Yeah, it was the last match.
It was the last match.
Some reason, yeah.
Jesus. No idea. I mean, I suppose they wanted to leave the fans happy or something. I don't know. It's not going to happen on that bloody show.
No.
Start giving them, not even their money back, just like hundreds of thousands of dollars compensation, I suppose. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that show, as you may guess. But
yeah, got that feeling. Yeah. Liam, what were your thoughts overall?
I mean, yeah, as we say about the Nitros, this went along at a pace, and there were just enough good matches for this to be something you could stick on via the WWE Network, which we've done here, and you'd probably not regret watching it. I've got to be brutally honest. There's some things, if we look in the grand scheme of things, they're absolutely mind-boggling. But if you're just going to stick on a bit of nostalgic background noise, it's not going to do you wrong, especially because of the pace of it and the diversity of the content is not to be sniffed at either. But yeah, if you do happen to lean a little closer to the television and pay a little bit more attention, you'll see some really, really big cracks for sure. And obviously those cracks turned into an all-out fissure at the Great American Bash.
Yes. Marvellous. Right, we will leave things there. Darren Goss, the Discovery, I forgot the name of the company. Darren Goss, Discovery Wrestling commentator. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. Now, before you go, tell people who are still listening at this point, well done if they are.
The dog.
The dog, yeah. Tell the dog where it can reach you on social media and where it can find Discovery Wrestling.
We're on Twitter, Disco Wrestling, and that's the best place. And then just on Facebook, Discovery Wrestling, search for that. If you are in the area, tickets are on sale now. We're at the Edinburgh Corn Exchange, shockingly in Edinburgh, which is on October 17th on a Sunday.
Is there corn?
And then there will be corn.
Does
available,
it get exchanged?
It will, but that's what it used to be. See, it used to be a marketplace.
They should have a popcorn
go.
stand. There you go. You get some popcorn in exchange for money.
Yes,
and
this
candy
is what we're going
corn.
for.
And
Yeah,
corn
we're not
dogs.
going to bother. Yeah, we're not going to bother charging people for the shows. We're just gonna, just bring your own corn.
Yeah.
So yeah, bring your own corn and come to the Corn Exchange. Tickets are on sale there. You can get them through the Discovery Wrestling website, discoverywrestling.com. And then we'll be back again November 28th for the anniversary show, which is also a Sunday. So there we go. Come along if you can, if you're in that area. If that dog lives in Scotland and he's got some corn, come along.
And I've been to a couple of Discovery shows when I've been up in Edinburgh, and they are well worth going out your way for. They're tremendous shows. We are on Twitter at BecauseWCW, on Facebook at facebook.com/BecauseWCW, and of course you can listen to this and the 98 other shows we've already done at becausewcw.podbean.com or wherever you get your podcast from. And we don't want to say too much. We don't want to jinx it, but with a bit of luck, Liam, we're going to get ourselves a special guest for episode 100.
We're going to try. It'd be rude not to. This has been a lot of fun over the last 4 years, and don't want that to sound like we're going to stop. We're going to keep doing it as much as we can. We're admittedly in a silver age of podcasting now, after that golden age of podcasting.
Yeah.
Credit to whoever I shamelessly ripped off Twitter for that. But yeah, we wanted to do something special as a thank you to you guys for sticking around for 100 episodes. So as long as it comes off, you'll be surprised.
Yeah. We could tell them that it's Ric Flair, so that when it isn't, that they can just chant "We want Flair" throughout the whole thing.
They'll chant "We want Flair" anyway.
Fair enough then. Right, Gossy, thank you very much for joining us.
No problem.
We will see you for episode 100 very soon. Thank you so much for taking the time and trouble to download this episode. On behalf of Liam Happ, this is me, the Twisted Genius, saying thanks for listening. I'll see you ringside.